Hello everyone, it's Dr. Horowitz back with you as we begin our next module, which becomes one of the most important experiences we're going to have in our course. We've introduced cross-cultural communication by looking at some examples of this thing called culture and diversity. We've done some exercises and activities to determine what our own values are, where they came from, and how this impacts and affects us as we move into adulthood and the world of work, and whether or not we're able to work effectively with people who, in fact, have other values, different values. Some of them compete, some of them are complementary, and still others are actually what we've termed irreconcilable. And now we begin the work of what to do about what we've learned. And I think that translates into a set of skills and strategies that come under this umbrella that we call cultural proficiency. And essentially, we're trying to find practical ways for accommodating colleagues, friends, family members in ways that meet their needs and their expectations more so than our own. And we do this from the context that we're acting in a leadership role or as an expert, so to speak, in effective communication. This is not easy work because automatically when we encounter people who are different than us, human nature seems to want us to kind of diminish the value of those different values from our own. But this is the work we have to do if we are going to move forward in this ever-increasing global diverse workplace. So what are some of the things we actually do? We're going to look at a couple of case studies, organizations, including one I was intimately involved with, that sought to change the organizational culture from one of perhaps giving lip service and celebrating superficially our cultural differences to making a real investigation and discovering what it is that keeps people apart or under tension and in fact bring their biases and prejudices to the workplace, which result often in underserving other cultures. Why this matters is because ultimately we're concerned with maximizing employee productivity. That is the driving force behind the work that we do in our course. So in order to maximize this productivity, we have to make certain accommodations. And that's the essence of cultural proficiency. It's accommodating other cultures, whether we agree with them or not, in order to serve their unique needs and expectations so they can be maximized in their productivity. Again, I underline the idea this is not an easy challenge to do. But you'll have tons of articles and case studies, and you'll have an opportunity to examine your own very personal views on what you believe and how it may or may not complement those around you. It is for you individually to decide on whether or not those behaviors are acceptable and still valid for you in today's world. This is a unique opportunity for you to become more self-aware and determine if any changes may in fact be necessary. You'll also have an opportunity to look at ways formally that we've created for you to have what I call culturally proficient conversations with colleagues, family, friends, and so forth, so that you are actually having candid conversations where other people are disclosing, including yourself, what your values, your needs, and your observations of how others are interacting with you, and whether or not you're then able to accommodate one another. Again, all for the sole purpose, or primary purpose, of maximizing one's productivity. An important component and benefit to doing this work is that while it's an indirect way of improving personal relationships, that is in fact what often occurs. Once you begin to have these conversations and learn about concepts related to various cultures, you pretty much wind up gaining a more positive perception about the people you work with. And that is, of course, the main trigger for improving relationships. So this is in contrast to the way previous attempts have been made in order to improve cultural relationships. Because in the past, many times, the approach has been kind of a hammer in which people are being preached to and told how they need to change their behaviors, change their values, assume some responsibility for past infractions that had been done to certain groups. You're not asked to do that in this approach. What you're asked to do is consider cultural difference as part of the business arena in which customer service is the driving force. So this work doesn't become an exercise in having to change your values, which you are more than entitled to have. They are your values. But rather to recognize that in the business community in particular, while you cannot mandate morality, you can mandate that people behave in a customer service oriented way. With that rather lengthy explanation and overview, I really invite you to very carefully examine many of the activities, including our cultural proficiency continuum, to establish where you might be personally on this evolution of pursuing cultural proficiency. That said, coming up next, becoming a culturally proficient communicator.